listening to Over the Oxford podcast with Tracy Cole for all things to do with the mind for equestrians. Well, a very happy new year. And here's to a healthy and happy and prosperous one. But I really wanted to talk today about New Year and about the fact that as the chimes of midnight pour out, then you start to think about goals and you start to think about resolutions and you start to think about the whole 12 months laid out in front of us. And for some people, that's fantastic. For some people, they really love that because they can draw a line in the sand and they can get on and start afresh, set new ideas going, and they really love the buzz that surrounds New Year. But for more and more people, New Year is actually quite an anxious time. It's quite an uncomfortable time. And so I was thinking about New Year and I was thinking about resolutions and goals. And I was thinking about in the past how I've said to people, don't set resolutions because they tend to fail. I think it's 90% before the end of January actually fail. I've said set a goal. And in fact, I've done workshops in January all about how to set goals with your unconscious mind, which is just super fascinating and really sets you up in a different way for success. But this year I've decided not to do that. I was thinking very much about goal setting, and I like goal setting, but I do feel that this time of year, you're pressurized into having a goal. You must have a goal, and it must be big, and it must be flamboyant, and it must be something audacious and, something that would really, really overturn everything in your life, make everything so much more wonderful. There's an idea, isn't there, that it's New Year, new me. And the 1st of January is the first day that you get to start this whole new life. And I think this reinvention of ourselves can be really healthy. It can be great for those of us that love the new year, love the chance to think about the new year, the year ahead. But for some people, as I say, it's not a good time. So let's have a little think about reinventing these goal-setting antics. For some people, setting a goal or a resolution sets us up for failure. How about we shake up how we think about New Year? A lot of people dread New Year. Now we've gone beyond New Year's Eve, so we've gone beyond that shutting down of the old year and the opening up of this vast expanse of the new year. But nevertheless, it can be that we start to look back at 2023 and we start to think about what's gone on. And we're actually encouraged all over social media to reflect. And we're there thinking about what's gone on, what's happened, what we've achieved. And for some people, there will be absolutely masses of successes. There'll be a wash with success and highlights, and doing that kind of reflection makes them feel really happy. But if you've had a tough 12 months, or even if Christmas and New Year were difficult, then it's really hard to reflect and to think back about all the great things that happened in 2023. And sometimes it's too difficult to think about it, and we want to shut it down. So I would say if 2023 was a tough year for you, for whatever reason, allow those emotions to surface, so long as you're doing it in a very healthy way. If these emotions, if you know the emotions are going to overwhelm you, then do it with a coach or a therapist. But feeling those emotions, acknowledging those emotions is quite healthy in the longer term. Emotions were never designed to be switched on constantly. They were always designed to be a message from your unconscious mind about whether we're doing something that's really good or doing something that needs tweaking. So all the positive emotions were there to say, this is great, do more of this. And the negative emotions are there to say, ooh, try not to do this again, or you're focusing on the wrong things, you're focusing on the bad, focus on the good. And so when we have emotions that are longer lasting, that's when it's really tricky, and that's when we might need to seek help. But if you avoid acknowledging those emotions, eventually the mind represses them and they stay locked in. And you may be able to get on with your life perfectly well, but there's always kind of like a subtext where there's that room inside your mind that you don't visit. And that can cause problems. And you don't even know it's causing problems, because these problems could be physical. They could be that you're overly emotional, or it could be a mental problem in that you can't think properly, or even that you are becoming very anxious or depressed. And you might even say to yourself, there's no reason for me to be anxious or depressed. So we need to go through that healing process in some way. And once we've found time to do that, either on our own, as part of self-development and so on, or, as I say, with a professional, then you can start to see a whole new perspective. So if it helps you to think back to 2023, and then I got a bit stuck. So I went into my calendar on my computer and I went back to January 2023, and I realised there was loads of stuff that I didn't realise was in 2023. There were loads of trainees that had graduated. There were loads of one-to-ones, sessions and trainings that I'd done that, again, I didn't realise they were in 2023. They felt either much older or I'd kind of forgotten that I'd done those things. So it was really nice to go back and just see the names of people and to remember them and to smile and, just to acknowledge to myself, I did quite a bit. However, if your reflection, now, has things that are more challenging to review, then take a moment, because this reflection will tell you how you survived and got through those challenges. And maybe you're still in the midst of challenges, but you've come this far. Maybe you've just started a challenge, because Christmas time, New Year time can be one of those trigger points in the year where things do get kind of blown up and we tend to attach lots of emotion to them because of that. But it's still really helpful to realise that you're here, and this too shall pass. Another thing that you can do is to completely reject the goal setting and resolution making. How would that be? Because we're kind of pressurized, aren't we, to think, right, January the 1st, I've got to have something. I've got to have something that I'm going to achieve this year. And I've got to have it on January the 1st. And I've got to think about it right now. And I've got to put it in my diary. And I've got to work out how I'm going to do it. I'm going to reverse engineer it, all this kind of stuff. But people who are listening to this podcast, I know that you must be fairly unconventional thinkers, because doing a little bit of NLP and some of these other mindset tasks makes you into somebody who thinks a bit differently. And so, do we need to follow the crowd and set a New Year's resolution or start a new goal just because it's January the 1st? Why don't we do it on February the 1st? Why don't we do it on March the 1st? It doesn't really matter when you set the goal. People are simply following tradition and convention. But maybe for you, January the 1st is not the best month. Maybe it's a really, really busy time for you at work, or maybe if it's a riding goal, it's really difficult because you can't ride because the weather's too awful. Or maybe there are problems, trying to get out for a hack, or maybe the competition yards that you normally go to are closed because of weather. So is January the 1st the only day that we can really make goals? I doubt it. I think it'd be quite nice to reject the way that we think about goal setting and having to do it and putting that pressure on ourselves. And imagine now that you've got no pressure to set a goal whatsoever. You can set it next week. You can set it in a month. You can set it when you want to set it. And also, in case you want to think differently again, and you may want to think about the expectations that you place on yourself. Are the expectations of getting your goal, are they realistic? Have you given yourself 3 months to do a 6-month goal? So are you setting yourself up for disappointment? I'm not going to use the word failure because failure is simply feedback. That's a really common saying in NLP. There is no failure, there's only feedback. So in other words, if your 6-month goal, you've decided you're going to squash into 3 months and it doesn't get accomplished by the end of that 3 months, then the feedback to you is simply, you need more time. There's no failure. Even if you don't achieve what you want to achieve, you simply need a different way of doing it. And that, again, is a really nice, healthy way of thinking about it. So you probably already think about doing small steps because for some people, there's a filter in the mind, and the large steps and taking big changes is actually quite frightening. So taking a small step, how about making your goal a single hour's goal with your horse? Just in 1 hour, or maybe a 20-minute goal. And these tiny goals, they kind of help our unconscious mind because the unconscious mind can get a little bit emotional, can get a little bit scared if we want to take this massive leap. So tiny increments, where we're maybe getting a 1% improvement. But even a 1% improvement every day, or every other day, or every week, all mounts up. Another thing that you might want to think about, rather than goals or resolutions, is to think of a word for this year. What is your word for 2024? Or you may want a word for the month. What's your January word? What's your word for the week? However you want to split it, get yourself some Post-its or even put it into your phone so that you know your word, and make it an inspirational word, something that has an emotional attachment. They're sometimes called hot words. And if you're struggling for inspiration, type in hot words into Google and you'll get lots and lots of emotionally charged words. And I'm absolutely sure that one of those will be absolutely perfect for you. And if you start to do this, if you start to think about a word a week, it's much simpler, isn't it, than a fixed goal. And by the time you've thought about that word for the week, maybe you've already achieved the goal and you need a new word and you can move on. So have a little think about this process of setting goals, making resolutions, and set yourself up for success in 2024 at some point, not necessarily right now. And if you're really interested in some of the concepts that I chat about on these podcasts and you'd like to learn more, you might be interested in training in NLP. So my next course starts online. It starts on the 5th of February, which is a Monday, and I do Monday afternoons. So it's 1:30 till 5 o'clock UK time. and we work towards becoming NLP practitioners. Some people do this just for their own personal development. They just simply are interested in NLP, interested in the mind, and they really like to join just for themselves. Other people want to improve their riding, so they want to improve their mindset. And other people would actually like to go and coach people in mindset. So I get all different types of people. Some people want to use NLP in their work, their current job. They've got no reason to leave the current job. They just want to make sure that they can use mindset, maybe be the mindset coach for their department at work. So lots and lots of different reasons for joining. The course itself does lead to professional qualifications. So if you wanted to use them, you always could do. There's no prior knowledge, zero. Just an open mind is needed. So if you'd like to join me, do get in touch. I usually have up to 6 people on the course. No more, because I think that means that we can all have a very casual and informal setup, and we can ask questions, we can have a chat, we can have a bit of a giggle. And if you're thinking, well, I'd love to do that, but I can't make Monday afternoons, then I do one-to-one. One-to-one training means that you can choose the time. Maybe you'd like to do weekends or other times. So again, do get in touch, and maybe NLP could be your sort of goal. I'm not going to call it a goal for 2024. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast. Do let me know if you have any topics you want me to cover this year. Take care, and I'll see you again very soon.